Hello there, and welcome back to the Snoozy Scientist. I'm so glad you're here tonight, ready to drift a little deeper into the ocean's secret places, where the currents whisper and the waves hold stories older than we can imagine. Tonight, we're going to explore a question that feels so simple, yet carries us into a gentle mystery. Do fish really sleep? And if they do, how do they rest in a world with no soft beds, no blankets to hold them in place, no solid ground to keep them from drifting away? It's easy to forget, as we settle under our warm blankets, that the creatures of the sea sleep in an entirely different way, weightless, suspended, rocked by tides that never stop. But how do they keep from sinking? How does a fish find stillness in a place where everything is always moving? Before we begin our gentle descent, I'd be so grateful if you'd give this sleepy little channel a soft like, and maybe even subscribe if you'd like more calm journeys like this. It really does help this cozy corner of the ocean stay afloat. And if you're listening tonight from somewhere special, I'd love to know where you are and what time it is right now as we float here together. So settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, let your shoulders drop, let your breathing slow, like a calm tide rolling in, and let's slip just beneath the surface, where the ocean's secret is waiting. Chapter 1: Why Sleep Matters, Even Underwater. Have you ever paused to think about what sleep really is? Not just the moment when your eyes flutter shut and the world drifts away, but what it means beneath your skin, within your bones, inside the busy maze of your mind. Sleep is one of the great secrets of life, a kind of magic that slips in every night and quietly restores us, stitch by stitch, cell by cell. It is the body's promise to itself. Rest now, repair, gather strength for tomorrow. But as you breathe slowly here with me, imagine what sleep means for a creature that lives beneath the waves. No bed, no nest, no pillow tucked under a cheek. Instead, the ocean itself becomes the bed, the blanket, and the lullaby. For fish, sleep is not about closing heavy eyelids and sinking into cushions. Many fish do not even have eyelids at all. Their eyes remain open as they drift into a state that is both awake and far away. They must find a way to rest while water pushes and pulls them from every side. Think about how our bodies need sleep for reasons so beautifully complex. Inside our brain, tiny chemical messengers tidy up thoughts that tangle during the day. Memories find places to settle, muscles relax, wounds heal, the immune system readies its defenses. Even our heartbeat slows, falling into a rhythm that allows the body to patch tiny tears in tissues we do not even know are torn. The ocean's creatures, too, rely on this quiet repair, though they do it with bodies so different from ours. For fish, rest is a delicate balance between survival and surrender. A fish that sleeps too deeply could drift into danger, swept away by a current, or drawn into the path of a predator. So many fish sleep lightly. Their muscles soften, but their senses do not switch off entirely. It is like living with one fin still ready to flick them awake. Some hover almost motionless, near rocks or reefs, their fins moving just enough to keep them balanced in the shifting water. Others wedge themselves into cracks in coral, so they do not float away as they doze. In your own sleep, dreams often bubble up like strange little visions that make no sense at all. Scientists still puzzle over dreams. Some say dreams help us solve problems. Others believe they sweep away leftover thoughts, like sweeping sand off a porch at the end of the day. But do fish dream? No one knows for certain. Some researchers think that fish may experience tiny bursts of something like dreaming, moments when the brain drifts into patterns of activity that look familiar to our own. If you could peek inside the mind of a parrotfish or a wrasse tucked safely into its coral nook, maybe you would see flickers of memories, the shape of a predator's shadow, the glimmer of plankton drifting by, the memory of a mate or a threat. Maybe dreams belong to the sea as much as they belong to us. Many fish have built-in ways to make sleep safer. Some parrotfish, for example, secrete a thin, slimy cocoon around their bodies at night. This mucus blanket may hide their scent from predators that hunt by smell. Imagine wrapping yourself in a bubble every night, floating unseen through the watery dark. Sharks, on the other hand, cannot rest like that. Certain sharks must keep swimming, mouths open, so water passes over their gills and delivers oxygen. So they drift in a kind of waking sleep, half aware, half unaware, the ocean carrying them forward like a dream that never really ends. Sleep is more than an escape. It is life's way of whispering that it must pause to gather itself. Even the sea's oldest creatures, the ones that have outlived ages and ice and storms, need moments of calm. Deep-sea fish that live where no sunlight ever touches the water may rest in ways we can hardly imagine. Suspended in the pitch-black hush, they save precious energy by slowing everything down. Their hearts beat slower, their muscles soften like jelly, their minds hover between instinct and surrender. It is a form of sleep so quiet that it makes our busy thoughts seem loud in comparison. So as you listen now, drifting on this gentle tide of thought, you might begin to see that sleep is not just about closing eyes or pulling covers to your chin. It is a hidden promise. It is the thread that binds together waking and dreaming, safety and risk, repair and growth. And for a fish in the great restless sea, sleep is its own kind of bravery. It is the trust that even when surrounded by water that never stops moving, there will always be a way to pause, to mend, to drift just enough to wake ready for another day beneath the waves. Sleep matters, even underwater. It is there, woven into the currents, wrapped around the coral, hidden in the gills of fish that hover half still while the world drifts on around them. It is there for you too, waiting in the quiet of your own breath, ready to gather your tired thoughts and rock them gently like a tiny boat floating on a calm, endless sea. Chapter 2: The Ocean, a world that never truly sleeps. Imagine, if you will, standing at the edge of the shore just before dawn. The world behind you is hushed, the houses dark, the trees still. But before you the ocean breathes. Its surface rises and falls in slow, patient waves that have been moving long before you arrived and will keep moving long after you go back home. The ocean does not rest in the way we do. It does not shut down or grow silent or pull a blanket over itself. It is always alive, always shifting, always in motion, and yet within that constant motion, there are places of peace, pockets of quiet where life pauses to rest in its own quiet way. Think of the tides, the heartbeat of the sea. Twice a day they pull away from the land, tugged by the moon's invisible fingers, then return again with a hush of foam and whispering sand. Deep below the surface, invisible rivers swirl and curve through the water, some warm and light, others cold and heavy. These currents travel the globe like secret pathways, carrying tiny drifting creatures along for the ride. Even in the deepest trenches where no sunlight can reach, the water shifts. It creeps through cracks in the sea floor and bubbles up through hydrothermal vents. It trickles past sleeping fish that hover in place, fins barely moving as the ocean cradles them in its gentle drift. When we think of sleep, we imagine stillness, a bed that does not sway, a room where the air does not swirl around us. But in the ocean, stillness and motion weave together. A school of fish might rest in the shadow of a coral reef, each one tucked into a crevice like a pearl in a shell. Above them, water flows softly through the reef's branching fingers, carrying fresh oxygen and sweeping away the day's dust. A lone grouper settles near the sandy floor, its sides pulsing as it breathes, its eyes half-lidded but always watchful. An eel coils itself deep inside a rocky tunnel where the current cannot reach and drifts into a sleep so light it wakes at the slightest flicker of a passing shadow. Even the smallest creatures find their quiet corners. Tiny shrimp nestle under the arms of anemones. Crabs bury themselves under a sprinkle of sand, hidden from the wandering eyes of hunters. Some creatures, like the parrotfish, spin a silken cocoon around themselves before drifting off. This thin, slippery blanket keeps their scent from drifting into the water, a shield against the sharp nose of a nighttime predator. Imagine wrapping yourself in a bubble each night, floating gently within it, the ocean flowing past like a dream. And yet, just a short distance away, other parts of the ocean hum with life. Even at midnight, lanternfish rise from the deep to feed in the moonlight, thousands upon thousands of tiny bodies drifting upward in the greatest migration on Earth. Squid and jellyfish pulse through the dark, their soft bodies glowing like paper lanterns drifting through a shadowed garden. The ocean does not sleep the way the forest does, or the way a city quiets down after midnight. Instead, sleep and wakefulness share the same watery space, overlapping in layers that drift and swirl and shift from hour to hour. If you close your eyes now, you might picture it, a vast blue world, always breathing, always swaying. Somewhere in the shallows, a turtle rests on a rock, its flippers drooping, eyes closed, trusting the reef to hold it safe until the sun returns. In the open sea, a tuna slows its powerful tail, drifting for a moment in the slipstream of a current, its heartbeat softer than before, and in the farthest depths, a ghostly fish drifts just above the silty bottom, conserving every flicker of energy, rocked to rest by the endless hush of the deep. The ocean is a living paradox. It is a world that never truly sleeps, yet it holds within its currents 1,000 secret beds, soft places where even the busiest creatures can close their eyes, if only for a moment. It reminds us that rest does not always mean perfect stillness. Sometimes it means being carried, like driftwood on a lazy tide. Sometimes it means trusting the current to hold you. Sometimes it means letting the world move around you while you remain wrapped in your own small, quiet pause. Tonight, as we drift deeper into this watery realm, let this thought settle over you like a warm wave. The ocean never sleeps, and yet it is full of sleep, a million small dreams hidden within its restless tides. If the sea can find rest within its endless motion, maybe you can too. So breathe in, slow and steady, and let it go. Imagine the hush of waves, the lull of a reef at midnight, the patient drift of currents that carry life and sleep in the same gentle flow. We have much more to discover about how fish find their place within this drifting world, how they sleep without sinking, how they keep the balance between dream and survival. But for now, just rest here with this truth. The ocean is always awake, yet always knows when to dream. Chapter 3. The Push and Pull. Gravity versus buoyancy. Picture yourself standing at the shore, toes buried in cool sand, the waves wrapping around your ankles. You lean forward, just a little, and feel the tug of gravity pulling you back toward the earth. It is gentle but constant. Gravity keeps your feet planted, your body rooted. It reminds you that you belong to the ground, even as the breeze and the tide invite you to drift. Now close your eyes and imagine yourself slipping into the water, letting your body float. Suddenly, gravity is not your only guide. There is another force at play, one that feels like a secret held in the arms of the sea. This is buoyancy, the soft push that lifts you up, the promise that you will not sink all the way down if you let go. For fish, And for all creatures that live where water holds them, this push and pull is life itself. Gravity always tries to tug them downward, back toward the ocean floor, just as it tugs you down when you step into a pool. But the water pushes back. It cradles them in invisible hands, lifting them just enough to hover in that magical space where down and up meet in balance. It is like being rocked in a cradle that never stops moving. The ocean is the cradle. Buoyancy is the mother's arms. Gravity is the weight that reminds you that drifting away is not so simple. All these forces blend into a kind of watery dance that every fish must master, day and night, awake and at rest. Inside each fish's body, there are tiny secrets that help keep this balance. Some fish have special organs called swim bladders, little gas-filled pockets hidden deep inside. Imagine a balloon tucked within their bellies, adjusting its size just enough to hold them steady. If the fish wants to rise closer to the sunlit surface, the bladder fills with a bit more gas. If it wants to slip deeper into the shadows, the bladder shrinks. It is an ancient trick learned over millions of years, a natural submarine, always adjusting its ballast. Other fish, like sharks, have no swim bladder at all. Instead, they fill their livers with oils that are lighter than water. Oil floats where water sinks. This keeps them from being dragged down like a stone. But it does not mean they can rest entirely. Many must keep moving, using their fins as wings that never stop fluttering. They ride the currents like gliders, their muscles tuned to the subtle art of staying just where they need to be. Imagine how delicate this balance must feel. To sleep, they cannot curl up in a bed or settle on a branch like a bird. The ocean floor may be too deep, too far, the water above too full of danger, so they hover, finding places where the currents are soft, where gravity's pull is gentle, and the sea's lift holds them steady. A coral crevice becomes a hammock. A patch of seagrass sways like a cradle in the breeze. A drifting school moves as one, each fish buoyed by the water's embrace. Buoyancy is a quiet blessing, but it comes with its own demands. It is not a promise that a fish will never sink. It is a promise that if it stops working, if the balance is lost, the water will claim it. The swim bladder must stay healthy. The oil must be enough. The muscles must flick just so, pushing the body upward when gravity tries to win. Even sleep is never pure surrender. It is a gentle watchfulness, a trust in the cradle of the sea, but always with one eye half open, one fin ready to stir. You can feel this balance in your own body too. The next time you slip into a warm bath or a pool, notice how you rise and fall when you breathe. A deep breath fills your lungs with air and lifts you higher. A soft exhale lets gravity remind you it is still here, waiting. In that quiet moment, you are not so different from a sleeping fish, suspended in a dream between the pull of the earth and the lift of the water. Think of the ocean's push and pull as a lullaby. It rocks life in a way that feels eternal. Tiny plankton drift up and down on gentle tides of buoyancy and gravity. Mighty whales rise for air and sink back into the deep, trusting the water to hold them. Every creature in the sea knows this dance, and so when they sleep, they do not fear the fall. They trust the balance, the quiet cradle that never truly lets them go. Tonight, as you lie here listening, maybe you can imagine that same cradle around you. The air around you is your water. The bed beneath you is your gentle ocean floor. Gravity holds you softly, while your breath lifts you just enough to feel weightless for a while. The ocean's secret is not just for fish, it is for you too. In the push and pull, you can find your rest. Chapter 4: Swim Bladders, Nature's Dream Balloons. Picture this. Far beneath the rippling surface of the sea, a single fish drifts, its scales catching the light like scattered stars. It does not paddle madly. It does not sink like a stone. Instead, it hovers in the water, perfectly balanced between the pull of gravity and the gentle lift of the sea. There is a secret inside that lets it stay so weightless, like a lantern caught on the wind. That secret is its swim bladder, nature's small, hidden dream balloon. Inside the bodies of many fish is this strange little pocket, an air-filled sac no bigger than your thumb in some creatures, much larger in others. To us, it might seem so simple, just a bubble tucked within the flesh. But for the fish, it is a lifeline, an anchor and a parachute, all at once. It allows them to hover, to float just where they wish, to rest without drifting helplessly downward into the darkness below. Imagine blowing up a small balloon and holding it underwater. If you let it go, it rises. Now picture trying to keep that balloon still at a certain depth. You might push it down with one hand, then feel it tug upward again. Fish do something like this inside their own bodies, every moment of their lives. They control the size of their swim bladder to match the dance of depth and pressure. If they swim deeper, the water around them squeezes tighter, and they must add gas to the bladder so they do not sink. If they wish to drift upward, they release a little. It is so precise, so perfectly tuned, that a fish can hover as if suspended on an invisible swing. This is the difference between drifting in peace and struggling with every heartbeat. A fish with a healthy swim bladder does not need to flap its fins in endless panic. It can rest, letting the ocean hold it steady while it conserves precious energy. In the vastness of the open sea, where there are no branches to perch on or caves to wedge into, this floating lantern becomes the safest bed a fish could wish for. Different fish shape their balloons in different ways. Some species have a single large bladder, others divide it into chambers, like rooms in a quiet house. The bladder is lined with tiny blood vessels that carry oxygen in and out, adjusting the pressure inside just enough to match the water's demands. For some fish, this gas exchange happens quickly, letting them dart up and down with ease. For others, it is slower, a careful balance that keeps them anchored at the perfect depth for feeding, hiding, or sleeping. The swim bladder is not just a tool for floating, it is also, in its own quiet way, a voice. Some fish use their swim bladder to make sound. They contract special muscles that drum against the bladder's walls, producing grunts or hums that ripple through the water. It is as if this hidden balloon, this tiny dream sac, becomes an instrument for conversation, a way to speak in the silent blue. But what happens if this secret balloon fails? A fish with a damaged swim bladder may find itself sinking, no matter how hard it tries to rise. It might struggle upward, burning energy it cannot spare. It may become easy prey. This is why the swim bladder is so carefully guarded, so delicately tuned by nature. It is the difference between calm and chaos, rest and exhaustion. Some fish do not have swim bladders at all. Sharks, for example, rely on their oily livers to stay afloat. Rays glide with wide fins like wings, but for the fish that carry this tiny balloon inside them, there is a sense of quiet magic. They drift like living lanterns in the deep, each one held by an invisible promise that they will not sink if they trust the lift within. Picture them now, scattered through coral reefs and open seas, each one a small miracle of balance. A clownfish hovers near its anemone home, its bladder adjusted to keep it in the shallow surge. A bass drifts near the rocky bottom, its balloon set just right to hold it steady above the sand. A slender silver herring moves in a sparkling school, each fish guided by the soft push and pull of its own hidden float. If you could swim beside them, you might feel it too, that strange, weightless calm, the sensation of hanging in the world with no floor beneath you and no ceiling above. It is like dreaming awake. It is like floating inside your own breath. So tonight, as you lie here listening, imagine you carry your own swim bladder within you. Imagine that you too can adjust your weight in the world with a thought that you can rise or sink, drift or hover, safe inside the ocean's embrace. Imagine being a lantern drifting through midnight water, your secret balloon holding you just where you wish to be. Let that image cradle you now. The sea is wide, the depths are many, but within each fish glows a tiny promise, a soft, secret balloon that lets it dream in water without fear of the fall. Chapter 5. Neutral Buoyancy. The Art of Suspension. Picture a fish drifting in the blue, neither pulled down into the darkness nor lifted helplessly toward the surface. It is not fighting the water. It is not thrashing its fins in frantic strokes. Instead, it simply exists in a perfect balance between the pull of the earth and the lift of the sea. This state, so delicate yet so natural, is called neutral buoyancy. It is the art of suspension, a quiet mastery that lets a fish rest, feed, and even sleep in the cradle of the ocean. Neutral buoyancy is like finding the sweet spot on a swing. Too much push and you swing too high, too little and you slow to a stop. But right there in the middle, you float, effortless, weightless, almost timeless. For fish, this balance means they can hover in place without burning precious energy. They are neither sinking nor bobbing upward. They are held by the water as gently as a mother holds a sleeping child. To understand this dreamlike state, you might think of yourself in a pool. If you fill your lungs with air and hold your breath, you float closer to the surface. If you let that air out slowly, you feel your body slip downward, gravity claiming you again. But there is a magical moment in between where you neither sink nor rise, you simply drift, suspended, weightless. That is a taste of what fish feel when they find neutral buoyancy. The swim bladder plays a quiet but powerful role in this dance. By adding or releasing tiny amounts of gas, a fish fine-tunes its body's density to match the surrounding water. The denser the water, the more lift it gives. The deeper the fish dives, the greater the pressure that tries to squeeze the swim bladder, smaller. So the fish adjusts, a breath here, a release there, always seeking that perfect moment when up and down cancel each other out. In a coral reef, you can see this balance played out like an underwater ballet. Small, colorful fish hover among the branches of coral. Their fins flick now and then, not in panic, but with the slightest grace, just enough to hold them in place. They drift forward and back like tiny kites on an invisible breeze. They watch for food. They watch for danger. They rest without ever lying down, because the water, through the gift of neutral buoyancy, becomes their bed. Some fish find their sweet spot higher in the water column, where sunlight dances through the surface in golden beams. Others linger just above the seafloor, their bodies perfectly matched to the heavy water that presses in from above. The trick is ancient and deeply instinctive. Even newly hatched fish must learn to balance their tiny swim bladders or oil-filled bodies, finding that magical suspension where they can drift safely and feed without exhausting themselves. Neutral buoyancy is more than a trick of physics. It is a kind of surrender, an agreement with the sea. The fish trusts the water to hold it. It does not resist. It does not overwork its muscles until they burn. Instead, it listens to the quiet language of the ocean's pressure and lets itself be guided into balance. In this way, the fish becomes part of the water, neither heavy nor light, simply there. Some divers spend years trying to master this feeling for themselves. They strap on tanks, adjust weights, and breathe in careful rhythms, all to capture that dreamy suspension. For a few precious moments, they too become fish. They hover beside coral heads, glide above sandy valleys, and feel the strange peace of being weightless in a world that does not demand they stand or sit or lie down. They feel how the sea holds all things, how it knows exactly how much to lift and how much to pull. Imagine now a school of silver fish, each one perfectly suspended in the same band of water. They move together, a living cloud that shifts shape but never breaks apart. Each fish holds its own place, the lift of its swim bladder matched to the water's depth, the tiny flick of its fins just enough to keep from drifting away. They do not struggle, they do not sink. They dream together in motion, weightless yet grounded by the silent embrace of the sea. Tonight, as you breathe in and out, you might feel a hint of your own neutral buoyancy. The bed beneath you is steady and solid, but your breath lifts you a little with each inhale, lets you sink a little with each exhale. You are suspended in the soft dark, held by gravity, yet cradled by air. Your mind drifts in its own currents, neither pushed nor pulled too far. You hover, you dream, you find your sweet spot. In this moment, you are not so different from a fish floating in the endless blue. The ocean knows how to hold you, just as it holds every drifting body within it. It whispers that balance is possible, that sometimes the art of suspension is simply the art of letting go. Chapter 6. What happens to buoyancy when fish sleep? In the quiet folds of the sea, where the light fades into dreamy blues and deepening shadows, fish drift into a sleep that does not look quite like ours. There are no eyelids to close, no beds to sink into, no blankets to pull tight around their shoulders. Instead, they trust the water itself to hold them, to rock them gently while they rest. And within their bodies, one of the most delicate secrets of this trust lies in how they keep from sinking or rising too far away. It is a lullaby sung by buoyancy. Imagine for a moment a fish that has found its safe place for the night. Perhaps it nestles among the waving fingers of a coral reef, or maybe it tucks itself into the soft arms of a drifting bed of kelp. Some wedge themselves between rocks or curl into crevices. Others hover in the open water, held by the ocean's unseen embrace. No matter where they choose, the question is the same. How do they keep from drifting downward into the darkness or floating up toward the dangerous surface while they sleep? Much of the answer lies in the swim bladder, that tiny gas-filled pocket hidden inside many fish. It is their secret balloon, their natural life raft. All through their waking hours, the fish adjust the amount of gas inside this bladder to stay perfectly suspended. They take in a little more when they wish to rise, release a little when they want to sink. But when sleep arrives, they must find a balance that lets them drift without worry. Unlike us, fish do not fall into deep, still sleep for hours at a time. Their rest is more like drifting through a series of half-dreams, a light doze that keeps one part of their mind aware. Some species can adjust their swim bladders slowly even while resting, tiny shifts that help them stay in that sweet spot of neutral buoyancy. It is as if their bodies have learned to breathe for the balloon within them, inflating or deflating it by the smallest amounts, so they do not drift away from their chosen perch. For fish that live in open water and must hover as they sleep, this is essential. A herring in a silvery school may seem motionless, but inside, its swim bladder is a living balance scale, listening to the pressure of the water and matching it with perfect patience. It is a quiet miracle of physics and life blending together. But not all fish rely on a swim bladder alone. Some fish, like sharks, carry oil in their livers instead of gas. Oil is lighter than water. It helps keep their bodies from sinking like stones. When a shark rests, if it rests at all, the oil does its part, lending just enough lift to offset gravity's constant tug. Many sharks must keep swimming even as they rest, gliding through currents to keep water flowing over their gills. And their buoyancy comes not from standing still, but from the slow, steady rhythm of motion. It is a different kind of sleep, one that floats through miles of water, the shark's massive liver carrying it onward like an ancient drifting dream. Some bottom-dwelling fish solve the problem in yet another way. Rather than suspending themselves in open water, they let gravity win, but only just. They find a soft patch of sand or a hidden cave and settle their bodies against it. With their bellies resting on the seafloor, there is no fear of drifting away. Their swim bladders may relax a bit, their bodies becoming heavier as they sink into the hush of the ocean's floor. It is a peaceful trade. Wait for safety, rest for surrender. There are fish that can change how they hold their fins too, creating tiny adjustments in lift. As they doze, a gentle flick now and then is enough to keep them from tilting too far downward or upward. Others use currents to their advantage. Positioning themselves where the water's flow helps keep them gently pinned in place. They find the spots where the ocean hums like a cradle song, a quiet push that balances the pull of gravity. In all these ways, fish show us a lesson about trust. They do not fight the ocean as they sleep. They become part of it, letting their buoyancy and the sea's gentle touch hold them. The push of water against their bodies, the soft lift of a gas pocket, the warmth of oil in their bellies. These are the pillows and blankets of the underwater world. Tonight, as you drift into your own rest, you might feel your body held in much the same way. Your bed is the sandy floor. Your breath, rising and falling, is your secret swim bladder, lifting you just enough before you sink gently back down. Between each breath, you float for a moment in that sweet, silent balance, neither rising nor falling, just held, just here, just drifting. And so, like the fish who dream with open eyes in the cradle of the sea, you can trust the night to hold you up, to keep you steady, to rock you on currents that whisper you are safe. You are weightless. You are exactly where you belong. Chapter 7. Light Sleepers of the Coral Reef. When the sun dips below the horizon and the ocean's surface darkens to deep indigo, the coral reef transforms into a nighttime village. It is a place where bright colors fade into muted shadows, and the hustle of daytime feeding gives way to the slow, careful drift of rest. If you could drift through these shallows at night, you would see that the reef never truly sleeps. Yet within its branches, caves, and nooks, the fish become light sleepers, tucked into tiny beds of coral. Imagine drifting over a shallow lagoon under the glow of the moon. Beneath the surface, the corals open and close like slow flowers. Feather stars stretch out their arms to feed in the gentle current. Small fish that darted through sunlit water only hours ago now slip into secret crevices, their bellies pressed against cool stone, their fins stilled except for the occasional flick. The reef's energy softens. What was once a riot of motion and color becomes a soft hum of breathing life. Tiny parrotfish, their scales bright like splashes of paint during the day, seek out small cracks in the coral. They wriggle backward until only the tip of a tail peeks out. Inside these pockets, they are safer from night hunters like moray eels or the patient reef sharks that glide in from the dark. These fish are such light sleepers that if a shadow drifts too close or a predator's movement shivers through the water, they awaken at once, ready to dart deeper into their fortress. Some parrotfish do more than hide. They blow themselves a blanket. Using their mouths, they secrete a thin layer of mucus that wraps around their bodies like a soap bubble. This strange sleeping bag masks their scent and muffles the tiny noises they might make in their sleep. Predators swimming past might taste only the water, missing the fish hidden behind its silky shield. Safe within this bubble, the parrotfish drifts in a light, flickering sleep, stirring now and then as currents brush its gossamer cocoon. Nearby damselfish nestle among the waving arms of soft coral and swaying anemones. By day, they guard their patches of algae or tiny territories fiercely, chasing away intruders with bold dashes. But when the stars bloom above the ocean, they become gentle dreamers. They hover just above the coral, sometimes pressing their sides against a familiar rock, so they do not drift far while they doze. Like children curling up in a trusted corner, they give themselves over to the reef's embrace. If you watch closely, you might see their fins quiver, not in fear, but in tiny sleepy adjustments, like a human pulling the blanket higher over their shoulder. They stir and settle, ever so lightly, caught between waking and dreaming. The reef is full of such hidden stories. Gobies wedge themselves into cracks so narrow they seem to vanish altogether. Some rest on ledges, balanced like tiny birds perched on a branch. Wrasses bury themselves in sand, sinking beneath the grains until only the faintest shimmer of a tail reveals them. For these fish, the coral is not just shelter, it is a cradle that rocks them through the dangerous hours of the night. Above them, nocturnal creatures emerge like ghosts. Crabs scuttle from one coral head to another. Slipper lobsters crawl across the reef, their antennae sweeping the dark for any sign of food. Hunters like lionfish and morays drift past, eyes glowing with reflected moonlight, searching for any fish too deep in sleep to sense the approach of danger. But the coral's tight crevices keep most sleepers safe. Its labyrinth of passages and folds becomes a fortress for the vulnerable, an ancient nursery that has protected light sleepers for millions of years. Sometimes, if you were to dive there under the moon's watchful eye, you might hear it, the soft click and crackle of the reef. Even at night, tiny shrimp snap their claws, parrotfish nibble coral edges in their dreams, and the gentle slosh of waves above keeps everything moving in a rocking, soothing rhythm. The reef is never truly silent. It whispers its lullaby in bubbles and currents, in the hush of fish drifting into sleep, and the rustle of fins brushing coral walls. So imagine yourself there now. You are a small fish, belly warm against the coral's rough surface. You can feel the pulse of the water around you, the safe weight of stone at your back. You know the dark hides dangers, but here within these ancient branches, you are held and cradled. Sleep comes in light waves. You drift awake when a shadow passes too close. You drift back into dreaming when the reef hums softly again. Tonight, as you settle into your own bed, think of these tiny sleepers tucked into the coral's hidden hollows. May you too find your safe crevice, your secret bubble, your place to rest lightly but deeply, rocked by the ocean's timeless lullaby. Chapter 8. Midnight Drifters of the Deep Sea. Far below the sparkling surface, deeper than any sunbeam can reach, there lies an endless ocean of midnight. This is a realm of cold water and slow time, where shadows drift like spirits and life glows softly in the dark. It is here, in this world without day or night, that the ocean's most mysterious sleepers drift on unseen currents, finding their rest in ways so different, yet so peaceful that they seem born from a dream. Picture the deep sea as an underwater cosmos. No walls, no floor, no ceiling, only water in every direction, pressing close yet feeling as wide as space itself. Imagine hovering there, thousands of meters down. It is so dark that your eyes would search in vain for the shape of your own hands. And yet it is not truly empty, nor is it truly silent. Small bursts of light flicker in the distance, like stars winking on and off. These are the living lanterns of the deep, tiny fish and drifting jellyfish that carry their own quiet glow. Here, sleep is not something that comes with the closing of eyelids. Many of these deep-sea drifters have no eyelids at all. They cannot shut the world out the way we do when we rest. Instead, their rest is woven into the way they move, or rather, the way they slow down. For creatures of the abyss, rest is not a pause, but a soft deceleration, a gentle drifting in the thick black sea. Take the barrel-eye fish, for example. With its transparent head and tubular eyes, it looks like something from a dream or a faraway galaxy. By day, though there is no real day down here, it hovers motionless in the water, its body perfectly balanced to hang in place. At times of rest, it slows its flicks and beats of its fins until it is almost completely still. There is no pillow beneath its head, no coral to wedge its belly against. Only the cool blackness holds it, and the slow beat of its neutral buoyancy keeps it from sinking. Nearby, a lanternfish drifts with its belly aglow. These tiny fish, barely the length of a finger, are among the most abundant vertebrates on Earth, yet most people will never see one alive. Each night, they migrate upward to feed in the relative safety of the dark surface, then drift back down by dawn. In the inky depths, their rest comes in pulses. Their muscles loosen, their tails flick less often. They hover in the cold, the faint pulse of their bioluminescent organs, painting tiny constellations that no human eye can see without a deep dive into the abyss. Bioluminescence is not just decoration in this world. For some drifters, it is a form of gentle camouflage, a cloak that lets them melt into the dark. For others, it is a sleepy signal that says, "I am here but not awake enough to flee." A squid, for instance, might drift with its arms trailing like ribbons. When it senses a predator drawing close, it can still rouse itself enough to pulse light, confusing its hunter with a sudden swirl of glowing ink. Think too of the jellyfish, these silent ghostly drifters that pulse through the water like slow-motion dreams. A jellyfish does not sleep the way we do, but studies suggest it has its own form of rest. Its pulsing slows, its movements soften, and its delicate body drifts deeper into the calm. It needs so little energy that slowing its rhythm even slightly is enough to recharge for another day, drifting in the black. The deep-sea drifters have no warm coral beds or hidden caves. Instead, they trust the water's vastness. They trust that in this endless darkness, their slow movements and clever lights will be enough to keep them safe. They have no need to find a resting place because the ocean itself is their cradle. The cold, heavy water holds them like a mother's arm, pressing close but never crushing, rocking them gently as currents drift past. Sometimes they cluster in loose shoals, tiny points of light bobbing together like a drifting galaxy. Each fish or squid or jelly floats in its own pocket of water, yet stays close enough to sense the others. It is a communion of light and darkness, a hush that says, "Here we are, all drifting, all resting together." Imagine that now, the slow swirl of invisible currents, the tiny sparkles of living stars, the creatures that doze with open eyes and glowing bellies. Imagine their heartbeats slowing, their tails softening, their muscles melting into the velvet black. It is a rest without bedsheets, a sleep without gravity, an endless drifting in a world that feels as soft as a dream. And perhaps tonight, As you lie still in your own darkness, you can feel a piece of that drifting too. Your room may not glow with bioluminescent sparks, but there is a hush in your breath, a slowing of your thoughts, a loosening of your limbs that is just as peaceful. The deep sea teaches us that sleep does not always mean closing your eyes and shutting the world away. Sometimes it means trusting the dark, trusting the quiet, and letting yourself float. So rest easy, dear drifter. Somewhere below you, the ocean's midnight sleepers are drifting too, their tiny lights flickering in the abyss, their bodies rocked by the oldest lullaby of all, the sea itself. Chapter 9, Sleeping While Swimming, The Shark's Paradox. Far below the restless waves, where the ocean's hidden highways stretch for miles in every direction, the shark glides on. It has been moving since long before your grandparents were born, before humans ever touched the sea with steel ships and whirring propellers. And tonight, as the moon pulls silver trails across the water, the shark swims still, even as it rests. To us, sleep is so often stillness. It is lying down, the softness of a bed pressing against our weight. It is the release of motion, the hush of the world as our breath evens out and our bodies slip into quiet repair. But for the shark, sleep is something altogether different, an ancient paradox that defies our landlocked understanding of rest. The shark's body is built for motion. Its sleek form cuts through water with barely a whisper, each flick of its tail sending it forward like an arrow loosed from a bow. Unlike many other fish, most sharks do not have a swim bladder to keep them buoyant. They rely instead on their powerful muscles, the lift of their fins, and the oil-rich heft of their enormous livers to stay afloat. If they stop moving completely, many would sink, heavy and silent, into the darkness below. Yet staying afloat is only part of the story. Sharks also breathe in a way that binds them to motion. They need water to flow over their gills, to draw in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. For some species, like the graceful great white or the ancient mako, this means they must swim almost constantly. This method, called ram ventilation, is their secret. The open sea rushes through their mouths as they swim forward, fresh water forever washing over the delicate filaments of their gills. Each current is a breath, each breath is a step, and each step must continue, even when they sleep. So how do they rest in this ever-moving life? The answer is a marvel of adaptation, a dance between instinct and the hush of the deep. Sharks do not sleep in the way we think of it. They do not lie down and shut their eyes tight. Instead, they slip into a resting state that looks like slow, drifting meditation. Their swimming becomes a gentle glide. The muscles that push them forward relax just enough to let the water do some of the work. Part of their brain stays awake, monitoring the world around them for danger or the scent of prey. But another part slows down, allowing rest to seep into the spaces between each pulse of muscle and flick of fin. Scientists believe that this partial sleep is guided by the shark's remarkable brain and nervous system. It is as if they have learned to split their minds into two parts, one that stays watchful, one that drifts. Some smaller sharks that live closer to the ocean floor have adapted other tricks. They may rest in caves or on the sandy seabed where the current flows steadily, pushing water over their gills without them needing to move. They find natural underwater wind tunnels, little pockets where the ocean does the breathing for them. It is a clever compromise, a gift of the sea. Others, like the nurse shark or the wobbegong, have evolved the ability to pump water over their gills by opening and closing their mouths. These sharks can lie still for long periods, tucked beneath coral ledges or beneath a rocky outcrop, wrapped in shadows while the reef hums around them. They sleep more deeply than their free-swimming cousins, yet they remain ready to slip away with the slightest threat. But the great travelers, the blues, the hammerheads, the makos, and the great whites, they carry their beds with them, miles upon miles of rolling ocean. They sleep while swimming. They trust the ancient push and pull of muscle and current, knowing that motion is both breath and cradle. It is the ultimate paradox: rest through movement, sleep through wakefulness, life through perpetual drift. Picture it now, a shark coasting through the black water, its mouth slightly open, eyes half-lidded but watchful. Its tail sways side to side like a lullaby played on ancient strings. Tiny bioluminescent creatures flicker around it as if the stars themselves have slipped beneath the waves to keep it company. There is no bedrock here, no hidden reef to wedge against, only the water's gentle push, the endless horizon, the deep that holds it up and urges it forward all at once. Tonight, as you breathe in your own stillness, imagine what it means to sleep like a shark, to trust that the flow will carry you, that your breath will always find its way through you, that the current itself will be your lullaby. You do not need to swim tonight, but you can drift in your thoughts. You can trust that even in motion, there is rest. Even in the endless swim of days, there is a soft place to let go. So let your mind float alongside these ancient wanderers. May your worries dissolve like bubbles behind a fin. May you dream of water that breathes you and darkness that holds you gently. May you feel, just for tonight, what it means to sleep while swimming, the oldest paradox of the sea. Chapter 10: Half-Awake Wonders, Unihemispheric Sleep. Imagine lying in your bed at night, drifting off to sleep, but keeping one eye open. Imagine half your mind resting, sinking into dreams and memories, while the other half stays awake, alert to every shift in the shadows or whisper at the window. For humans, this sounds impossible, a trick too strange to belong to our tidy picture of sleep. Yet in the ocean's secret places, it is a quiet miracle that happens every night in creatures who must stay half awake to survive. This strange and beautiful gift is called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. It means sleeping with one half of the brain while the other stays alert. Many fish do not need this at all, tucked safely in crevices or drifting on neutral currents. But for some ocean wanderers, dolphins, porpoises, and even certain sharks and rays, this gentle balancing act is the only way they can rest without risking the breath they need to live. Picture a dolphin now, its smooth gray back breaking the surface of a moonlit sea. Beneath that familiar smile and curious eyes lies a life tied tightly to the rhythm of breath. Unlike fish that draw oxygen from water through gills, dolphins are mammals like us. They must surface again and again to draw lungfuls of salty air. If they fell into deep sleep the way we do, they would drown in their dreams. So nature, patient as ever, gave them a compromise. One half of their brain sleeps. The other half keeps watch over the sea's endless threats, over the need to swim, and most importantly, over the need to breathe. Dolphins often swim slowly when they sleep. They drift near the surface, rising to exhale in soft puffs that mist under the stars. They may swim in slow circles, the awake side of their mind guiding them through the dark, like a gentle autopilot. One eye closes, the other stays open, scanning for anything that should not be there: a predator's shadow, a sudden change in current, the call of a calf that needs its mother's side. And when the resting side of the brain has had its share of dreams, the roles gently switch. Now the other half drifts away into quiet waves of sleep. The eye that was open closes, the eye that was shut flickers open. One hemisphere floats in the deep pools of rest, while the other hums along, the guardian of breath. It is not just dolphins who share this secret. Many whales, from the smallest porpoises to the giants that sing songs deeper than our oldest languages, use unihemispheric sleep too. And beyond the mammals, certain fish and birds have found this rhythm as well. There are stories of oceanic birds that nap while soaring for days over open water, one side of their mind tracing invisible air currents, the other side drifting through peaceful darkness. Scientists who study this wonder say it is like a living compromise, the art of resting without ever fully letting go. For these creatures, sleep is not an on or off switch. It is a dimmer, gently lowered and lifted, side by side, night by night. In this way, they keep moving through the ocean's slow highways, riding currents that carry them from shallows to depths, from feeding grounds to faraway seas. Imagine now a pod of dolphins, half-awake wanderers gliding beneath the moon. Their bodies drift side by side, close enough to sense each other's presence. Their breath rises in misty spirals above the waves, then fades as quickly as it appears. The water around them glows with tiny sparks, bioluminescent plankton swirling in the quiet currents. Beneath the surface, you could see one eye open on each dolphin, dark and watchful, yet softened by the calm that lives inside their half-sleep. It is a peaceful paradox. No walls to hold them, no bed to cradle them, yet they are safe, rocked by the water's ancient song. Sometimes, if you have ever found yourself half awake before dawn, that soft space when the mind drifts between dream and day, you have tasted a tiny bit of this wonder. Your body still, your mind watching the edges of the room, ears picking up the hush of rain or the distant hum of the world, even as another part of you floats away. The dolphins and whales live in this place night after night, moving as if they wear sleep like a half-folded blanket, one edge tucked under the chin, the other free to feel the ocean's gentle pull. So tonight, as you lie back and breathe deeply, think of these unihemispheric dreamers. Let them remind you that sometimes you do not have to let go of everything all at once. You can drift between wakefulness and sleep like a dolphin gliding through a midnight sea. You can trust the part of you that keeps watch while the rest of you softens and sinks. You can let your dreams flow in and out, wave after wave, knowing that you too are part of the great drifting hush that binds all sleepers above and below the waves. Chapter 11, Octopus Dreams, a colorful slumber. Picture this: deep beneath a quiet cove, where rocky crevices form secret rooms and seagrass sways like soft curtains, an octopus settles into its den. Its 8 arms curl inward like sleepy question marks. Its eyes, so bright and curious by day, flutter half shut, the lids moving slowly, as if testing the line between the waking world and whatever comes next. And then, in this secret moment, something beautiful happens. The octopus begins to dream, and its skin tells the story. Among all the ocean's sleepers, the octopus may be the most mesmerizing to watch. Other fish drift quietly, hidden in coral or suspended in gentle currents. Their rest so still, you might miss it entirely, but the octopus carries its dreams on its skin. Even as its body goes soft and its arms drape like silk across the sand, its colors do not stay still. They flicker and bloom, pale and dark, shifting through patterns that mirror whatever scene its ancient mind is spinning behind closed eyes. Scientists who study these graceful beings know that the octopus is unlike almost any other creature in the sea. Its brain is vast for its size, larger than many fish, and scattered through its whole body. Each arm holds clusters of neurons, tiny minds of their own, that taste and feel the world independently. But when the octopus rests, the orchestra of these arms slows down. The central brain takes over, weaving images that, to us, look remarkably like dreams. Some octopuses find a cozy nook in the reef, tucking themselves into cracks and caves where predators cannot reach. Others anchor themselves to the sandy floor, blending in so completely that even a passing shark might drift by without a second glance. The ocean has always demanded cleverness from its softest creatures, and the octopus is its quiet genius. This is true even in sleep. Safe in its chosen hiding place, the octopus releases its grip on the world, slipping into slumber, and then, almost like magic, the show begins. Tiny pigment cells in its skin, called chromatophores, open and close like tiny umbrellas. These cells can expand and shrink in response to signals from the octopus's brain, painting its skin in shades of crimson, chocolate, ivory, or ink-black shadow. While awake, the octopus uses this gift for camouflage, to blend with rocks and coral, or to startle prey with a sudden flash of brightness. But in sleep, these colors shift without any need to hide or hunt. They become whispers from the mind, silent pictures on living canvas. A dreaming octopus might flush white as if startled, then fade to dark, shadows rolling down its arms like storm clouds. It may pulse with mottled spots, then smooth out into a single hue. Some researchers believe these waves of color reflect the octopus reliving the hunt, chasing shrimp through coral forests, or escaping a predator by squeezing into an impossible crack. Others think the color changes may be random, the leftover echoes of a nervous system that can never truly be quiet, even in rest. No one knows for certain, because no one can slip inside an octopus's mind. But standing at the edge of its den, watching those colors dance across soft skin, you can almost believe you see its dreams flickering into being. Each shift of shade is a secret, a clue to a world that has never been ours to enter. To see an octopus dream is to be reminded that sleep is not only stillness, but also motion in disguise. We often think of rest as the absence of doing, but here in the hidden coves of the sea, an octopus shows us that the mind keeps moving, painting pictures no one else may ever fully understand. It is a reminder that sleep is not just a blank space. It is a garden we tend in darkness, full of stories that bloom and fade behind the veil of our eyelids. When you close your eyes tonight, you might find your own mind shifting colors too, not on your skin, but in your thoughts. Memories ripple in, half-forgotten faces pass by like drifting fish, old dreams tangle with new ones. You might not see the shapes as clearly as the octopus shows us its shifting hues, but they are there all the same, blooming and receding, moment by moment. So let yourself drift now, the way the octopus does, half wrapped in the world, half floating beyond it. Trust that your mind knows where to go, even if you do not follow every twist and turn. Dream of shifting reefs and soft sand, of arms that hold you steady while your thoughts play out in quiet color. And when the sun returns and you wake with the hush of sleep still lingering at the edge of your mind, remember that somewhere in the sea, the octopus is still dreaming too, painting its story on skin, a secret shimmer in the dark. Chapter 12, Sleeping in Disguise, Nature's Underwater Blankets. Imagine drifting into sleep not under a warm blanket or soft quilt, but beneath a cover woven by nature herself, a blanket made of shifting sand, dancing shadows, and coral crevices that cradle you like an ancient bed. In the great underwater world, sleep must be earned and protected. For countless fish, the ocean is not a place to fall into dreams freely, but a place that demands they sleep with care, tucked beneath the very fabric of their surroundings. If you could shrink down and swim along a quiet reef at night, you would find that what looks empty at first is anything but. You would see eyes peeking from holes in rocks, tiny fins barely stirring the water, and scales that match the broken patterns of coral so perfectly they become invisible to any hungry hunter drifting past. It is the ocean's oldest lullaby: hide and rest, or drift unguarded and be found. Take the parrotfish, for example. All day long it crunches on coral, scraping algae and dead polyps with a beak-like mouth. Its colors are bright, flashes of green and pink and turquoise that shimmer like a living jewel among the reefs. But when night falls and danger creeps in, the parrotfish performs a trick of its own making. Many species excrete a thin mucus cocoon that wraps around their bodies like a translucent sleeping bag. This bubble does more than hide their scent from predators. It acts like a gentle alarm, vibrating slightly if a lurking moray eel or prowling barracuda disturbs the water around it. Wrapped in its slimy blanket, the parrotfish drifts into sleep, knowing the ocean's teeth may search for it, but they might not find it before dawn. Camouflage is nature's oldest bedtime story for fish. Flounders lie flat on sandy bottoms, shifting their colors grain by grain until they vanish into the seabed. Even when they rest, their eyes remain open, perched on stalks that swivel gently, scanning the currents above for shadows that do not belong. To a casual diver, they are just patches of sand, an empty piece of ocean floor. But beneath that disguise, the flounder's heart beats slow and steady, resting but ready. Some gobies nestle among seagrass blades, their slender bodies swaying like green ribbons in the tide. Others burrow under thin layers of sand, leaving only the tips of their eyes exposed. From above, they look like nothing more than a ripple in the seafloor, an illusion that keeps them safe through the longest hours of night. It is easy to forget how many secrets the ocean keeps just an inch beneath your gaze. Then there are the masters of rock and coral disguise, the scorpionfish, the stonefish, and countless others that carry the reef upon their backs. Their skin bristles with lumps, spots and folds that mimic coral polyps, rough stones and tangled weeds. Even when awake, they are hard to see. When they rest, they become part of the scenery entirely. A predator could pass inches away and never suspect the sleeper hidden in plain sight. These blankets of sand, shadow, and rock are more than just physical shields. They are proof that in the ocean, rest is not an invitation to abandon the world, but an agreement with it, an understanding that even sleep must be woven into the rhythm of life and threat and survival. There are no doors to lock, no walls to guard a bed. There is only the patient work of evolution, painting scales and skin with patterns that echo the sea's shifting light. Sometimes even the color of the water becomes a cloak. At dusk, the ocean grows dim. The bright reef fish that blaze like lanterns during the day fade into grays and browns, their pigments dulling as they slip into coral crevices. The shimmer that once drew mates and allies now dissolves into muted hush. A fish that was once obvious becomes almost invisible, tucked between brain coral and waving anemones. It is not a disappearance so much as a soft dissolving into the canvas of the reef. For us on land, we pull quilts over our shoulders and feel safe within the four walls of a familiar room. For these sleepers of the sea, the ocean itself becomes the quilt. Every grain of sand that covers a flounder's back, every flickering shadow that conceals a goby, every rock face that holds a scorpionfish, is part of a story as old as the tides. The ocean rocks them, hides them, holds them, a lullaby whispered in salt and water. Tonight, as you close your eyes, Imagine yourself wrapped not in cloth, but in something much older, the hush of water, the shimmer of moonlight broken into ripples, the patient drift of seagrass. Imagine the feeling of being hidden, but not alone, invisible yet gently cradled by the world around you. The next time you worry that sleep leaves you unguarded, remember the fish who trust the ocean to cloak them, who close their eyes knowing that the sea itself is their blanket. In the great underwater dark, the fish rest because they have learned to become part of what holds them safe. May you too feel hidden tonight, not from the world, but wrapped in its softest shadows. May you sleep in disguise, like the quiet sleepers of the reef, drifting in your own hush, untroubled and unseen. Chapter 13: Seahorses Anchored in Seagrass Beds. Close your eyes and picture a quiet underwater meadow. The sunlight drifts down through the waves, splintering into soft beams that sway with the tide. In this gentle field, blades of seagrass dance slowly, each one moving like a green ribbon caught in a forever lullaby. Hidden among these drifting blades are the seahorses, some of the ocean's most graceful sleepers, anchored not by walls or nests, but by the tender grip of their own tails. The seahorse is a creature that seems too fragile to belong in the wild ocean. With its bony armor, horse-like snout, and curled tail, it looks as if it belongs in a storybook more than a vast, unpredictable sea. Yet this tiny fish has learned to rest in a way that is both clever and beautifully simple. While other fish rely on swim bladders or camouflage, the seahorse holds tight. Its tail, prehensile and strong, curls around a single strand of seagrass or coral, and there it remains, anchored gently in the current. By day, seahorses are shy wanderers. They hover upright, eyes moving independently, like tiny sentinels watching for both prey and predator. They drift from one patch of seagrass to another, blending into their surroundings with hues of green, yellow, or pale brown. They are not strong swimmers. In fact, they are among the weakest, easily pushed about by the smallest push of a passing tide. And so, nature gave them a gift, a tail that acts like a tiny anchor, securing them when the water's breath would sweep them away. As the ocean grows dim and the currents slow with the coming night, these gentle fish prepare for sleep in the only way they know how. With a soft bend of their slender bodies, they coil their tails around the stems of seagrass. They do not need caves or crevices. The meadow is their bed, the shifting grass their blanket. And there they stay, each one a quiet figure rocking in the dark, secure against the restless push and pull of the sea. There is something so peaceful about imagining this hidden bedtime ritual. While larger fish must find caves to hide from predators, the seahorse trusts in its anchor. Its body drifts just slightly, swaying with the gentle hush of the tide. Its eyes, often alert and searching, soften as its tiny heart slows. Within that small armored body, dreams, if they come, do so wrapped in the safety of a single blade of grass. For seahorses, this anchored sleep is not just a choice but a necessity. Without it, they would be carried off by the current, pulled far from the meadow that feeds and shelters them. But with their tail wrapped tight, they rest easy, trusting that the ocean's gentle cradle will not break their hold. Some sleep alone, curled on a solitary strand, while others doze near a partner, their tails twined to neighboring grasses, like neighbors on the same street of an underwater village. In some parts of the world, you might see seahorses sleeping in beds of coral, their tails hooked around a branch of soft sponge or Gorgonian fan. But it is in the swaying seagrass that they are most at home, a place where sunlight filters in and tiny shrimp drift by like underwater pollen. Here, these delicate dreamers are part of an ancient pattern, an endless cycle of drifting and anchoring, drifting and holding tight. If you listen closely to the sea's hush, you might imagine that each seahorse carries a lesson in that small, determined tale. It reminds us that sometimes rest does not mean letting go completely. Sometimes it means finding one thing to hold on to, something sturdy and steady enough to keep you grounded while the world drifts around you. It could be the soft curl of a blanket around your shoulders, the hush of a familiar voice, or the gentle breath that keeps you tethered to this moment, even as your thoughts wander far. So tonight, as you settle under your own covers, think of the seahorses sleeping in their underwater meadow. Picture their tails curled tight, their slender bodies swaying, but never drifting away. Let that image remind you that it is possible to rest even when the world keeps moving, that you can anchor yourself to a single point of stillness and trust it to hold you safe. And if the currents of your mind feel restless, imagine the seagrass swaying gently above you, the light filtering down like a dream. Imagine yourself held softly, not by force, but by a quiet grip that never lets go. Sleep like the seahorse anchored in the calm, rocking with the tide, drifting but never lost. Chapter 14, The Coral Community, a shared bedtime. Imagine drifting over a coral reef just as the sun dips below the horizon and the water shifts from sunlit blue to a dusky lavender. All day this place has been a riot of color and motion. Schools of fish darting between coral heads, crabs scuttling sideways across the rocks, sea anemones waving their soft arms in the current. But as night arrives, the reef takes on a different kind of life. It is as if the whole neighborhood, from the tiniest polyp to the largest parrotfish, agrees it is time to settle down together. If you were to hover quietly in this underwater village, you would see how many creatures tuck themselves into tiny hidden corners. Tiny fish slip between coral branches like children finding a favorite hiding spot. Brightly patterned butterfly fish wedge themselves sideways into cracks so narrow that they seem to vanish altogether. Some species change color in the dimming light, their brilliant daytime stripes and spots softening to pale grays and browns that blend perfectly with the shadows of the reef. Beneath the surface beauty of the coral's stony skeleton lies a bustling world of polyps, each one a tiny living being, curled inside its own limestone house. During the day, these polyps extend their delicate tentacles to catch drifting bits of plankton, but when darkness falls, they pull their tentacles back, closing up like flowers at sunset. The reef becomes a quilt of sleeping mouths and folded arms, each polyp resting within the safety of its hard coral frame. Though they are tiny, these polyps together create the massive coral heads that serve as fortress, bed, and pantry for countless other ocean dwellers. Nearby, crabs tuck themselves under ledges, folding their legs tightly beneath their shells. Some find shelter inside empty snail shells, or squeeze into cracks where predators cannot follow. Shrimp huddle in pairs within the waving arms of anemones, sharing their host's gentle protection. Even the anemones themselves, which spend the daylight hours stretched wide and waving in the current, may draw in their tentacles at night, becoming soft, round pillows for any small creature needing a safe nook. The reef at night is quieter than by day, but it is never silent. The sea is always breathing, always moving, always carrying the gentle rhythm of life. A parrotfish, bright and bold in the sun, now sleeps wrapped in its mucus cocoon, a shimmering bubble that keeps its scent hidden from nocturnal hunters. Small damselfish drift into holes carved into the coral, their tiny bodies pressed against limestone walls. A sleeping turtle might pass through, seeking a sandy hollow nearby where it can settle its heavy shell for hours of undisturbed dreams. Even the predators slow down, Some species of moray eels coil deeper into their caves, waiting for the cover of true darkness to begin their silent hunts. Until then, they rest, mouths opening and closing slowly like a lazy door, tasting the water but conserving their strength. What makes this coral community so special is not just that so many creatures share the same space, but that they do so in a way that seems almost coordinated. The reef is a neighborhood, but it is also a living blanket. Every nook, every crevice, every fold in the coral is a potential cradle for sleep. In this place, there is no single bed or nest. Instead, the entire structure becomes a patchwork quilt of tiny dreams. One fish here, one shrimp there, a crab tucked in beneath them all. It is crowded yet calm, busy yet peaceful, a place where rest is not hidden away but shared, woven into the architecture of the reef itself. And when the currents push through, stirring the polyps and brushing past the fins of sleeping fish, it feels almost like the hush of a mother smoothing a blanket over a child's shoulder. The reef cradles its residents not with walls and doors, but with its own arms of stone and coral, a neighborhood made of secrets and soft hiding places. If you close your eyes now, imagine you too could tuck yourself into this coral village. Picture finding your own nook, small and safe, a hollow just big enough for your body, with the ocean's warm water pressing gently against your skin. Feel the slow pulse of life all around you, the quiet breathing of polyps, the soft drifting of fishtails, the patient stillness of sleeping crabs. Here, in this shared bedtime, you are never alone. You are part of the reef's long story, one dream among thousands. The sea does not mind your presence. It carries you, rocks you, and hides you in its folds like a precious secret. And as you drift into sleep, imagine the coral community, keeping watch, tiny eyes half closed, fins tucked tight, all of you sharing the same hush beneath the moonlit waves. Chapter 15. What happens if a fish sinks? Picture the ocean as a vast liquid sky. For the creatures who call it home, sinking is like falling through endless space. Unlike us, who rest safely on beds anchored to the earth, fish must find a way to rest within water that is always moving, always pulling them one way or another. To understand what happens if a fish sinks too far, we must drift into the gentle physics that guide their sleep. Gravity does not disappear underwater. It is a quiet but constant presence, tugging every fin and scale downward toward the deepest trenches. But fish, unlike rocks or seashells, are not built to sink like stones. They have evolved ingenious ways to stay suspended, to hover in place as if resting on an invisible hammock. For many species, this delicate balancing act comes down to the marvel of their swim bladder. Imagine a fish's swim bladder as a tiny, flexible balloon hidden inside its body. When the fish wants to stay at a certain depth, it adjusts the amount of gas in this balloon, just enough to match the weight of the surrounding water. If you could see inside, you would find that some fish add or remove gases gradually, keeping themselves perfectly buoyant, like lanterns drifting on a breeze. When they sleep, this balance must hold steady. A swim bladder that deflates too much could let the fish drift downward, deeper than it should. But nature, wise as always, has built in gentle safeguards. Most fish do not fall into a deep unconscious slumber the way we do. Their rest is lighter, a half-dreaming state where parts of the body are still awake enough to keep adjusting the swim bladder. It is as if they sleep while holding a tiny string that keeps them from falling too far. This subtle control keeps them from drifting down into colder, darker water where predators wait and oxygen is scarce. But what if the swim bladder does fail? In rare cases, injury or illness can disrupt this balance. A fish might lose control of the gases in its swim bladder, becoming too heavy to hover. It sinks like a leaf falling through still air, down past its usual territory, into the gloom. For some species, this descent can be dangerous, even deadly. The deeper they go, the greater the pressure, which can squeeze the gases in their body and make it harder to return to the surface. Like a diver holding too much weight, they risk becoming trapped in a place they never meant to visit. Yet, many fish have clever ways of avoiding this fate. Some use oils or fats stored in their livers to help them stay buoyant, even if the swim bladder falters. Sharks, for example, do not have swim bladders at all. Instead, they rely on large, oil-filled livers that act like gentle life jackets, giving them natural lift in the water column. While most sharks must keep swimming to keep from sinking entirely, this oily buoyancy lightens their effort, allowing them to cruise slowly without fear of an endless fall. Smaller reef fish have another line of defense, their choice of resting place. They wedge themselves into coral crevices or holes in rocks where the ocean's currents and gravity cannot pull them far. They are like tired travelers, tucking themselves into alcoves on a windy night. Even if their swim bladder relaxes a bit during sleep, the structure around them holds them close, keeps them from drifting into the abyss. In the deeper parts of the ocean, where pressures are immense and sunlight never reaches, some fish have evolved bodies so soft and gelatinous that sinking is simply part of life. The famous blobfish, for instance, looks like a sad, saggy face when brought to the surface. But in its natural habitat, its body is perfectly balanced for the crushing depths. It does not fight sinking because it has no need to hover. It floats just above the seafloor, moving slowly with the currents, its shape adapted to a world where sinking is not a danger, but a home. All of these delicate adjustments remind us that the ocean is a place where physics and life move together in an endless dance. Staying still is not about lying motionless. It is about constant tiny corrections, a flick of a fin, a gentle shift of gases, a subtle flex of muscles. A fish that sleeps well is one that has learned to ride gravity like a drifting feather, never falling too far, never floating away. So the next time you feel the pull of sleep, imagine yourself as a fish held not by a mattress, but by the balance of your own breath. Picture a tiny bubble inside you, keeping you perfectly suspended, safe from drifting into places too deep for dreams. In the ocean's vast cradle, a fish's rest is never careless. It is a quiet promise to stay close to the place it knows best, no matter how far the currents wish to carry it. May you too feel that sense of balance tonight, a gentle buoyancy that keeps you just where you need to be, drifting but never sinking, held softly in the water of your own dreams. Chapter 16, Tides and Currents, the Ocean's Lullaby. Close your eyes and imagine drifting just beneath the surface of the sea. All around you, the water hums with a slow, steady pulse. It is never truly still, never silent. Even when the waves above are calm, the ocean beneath is alive with currents that push and pull, swirl and settle like an endless rocking cradle. For the creatures who live here, this gentle motion is not just background noise. It is a lullaby, a constant hush that soothes them into sleep. Unlike the dry land where our beds sit anchored in place, the ocean is a place where every cradle floats. The sea holds no floor to keep you steady, no walls to lean against. Yet somehow, fish, turtles, corals, and drifting plankton all find a way to rest in this fluid world. The secret lies in the tender hands of the tides and currents that move them, not with sudden gusts, but with soft, rhythmic swings. Tides are born from the moon's pull. Twice a day, the moon's invisible fingers draw the water upward, gathering it toward distant shores, before letting it slide gently back. This grand motion is not harsh. It is as if the moon itself is rocking the ocean to sleep. Where the tide flows in, small creatures find pools and eddies, places where the water circles and calms. Where the tide recedes, they are tucked into sandy hollows or shallow reefs, held safe in places where the push and pull is more like a heartbeat than a storm. Currents work in smaller ways too, winding around coral heads, weaving through kelp forests, drifting above the deep trenches where the ocean's secrets hide. Imagine being a tiny fish, just an inch long, perched on the edge of a reef at dusk. All day you have darted in and out of coral branches, chased by predators, searching for food. But now, as the sun sinks and your energy fades, the current becomes your blanket. It washes over your scales, smoothing you into stillness, carrying away the noise of the day. Some animals find pockets of stillness inside the currents, eddies and backwaters that swirl softly like the dimple in a pillow. Others, like drifting plankton or jellyfish, simply surrender to the movement. They float wherever the water takes them, their bodies pulsing just enough to stay upright, their rest woven into the ocean's endless sway. In the open sea, where there are no reefs or rocks to hide behind, the currents play an even more important role. Many fish find the sweet spot in the water column, a place where opposing flows meet and cancel each other out. Here, the gentle tug of the current keeps them suspended like lanterns in the dark. They drift but do not drift away. They are carried but never lost. It is a lesson in trust, in letting go without falling. Sea turtles, too, are cradled by these watery hands. A young turtle might swim hundreds of miles, guided by currents that wrap around entire continents. When they rest, they float at the surface or wedge themselves into seaweed mats that drift with the tide. There, rocked by the ocean's lullaby, they find the calm they need to breathe deeply and dream of the next distant shore. Even in the deepest trenches, where the surface tide is just a distant memory, the currents still whisper lullabies. Slow-moving rivers of cold, dense water slide along the seafloor, carrying nutrients and warmth from far-off places. Strange creatures, ghostly fish, delicate sea cucumbers, pale crabs, rest in these hidden flows, their bodies adapted to the hush and the press of the ocean's slow embrace. Think of the coral polyps tucked into their limestone homes. By day, they reach into the current, feeding on tiny morsels swept along. By night, they close themselves tight, trusting that the steady push and pull will bring what they need when they wake. Their dreams are tied to the water's drift, the promise that no part of the sea is truly alone. Every drop is connected, every creature held by the same unseen fingers. It is no wonder then that the ocean's lullaby has lulled sailors and shore dwellers to sleep for centuries. Listen to the hush of the tide against the sand, the soft rush of water around a boat's hull, the faraway roar of surf breaking on distant rocks. It is the same cradle that rocks the fish and the turtle and the drifting jellyfish. It is the same hush that lets them sleep unafraid in a world without walls. So tonight, as you lie beneath your own roof, imagine this. You too are cradled, not by waves and currents, perhaps, but by the steady rhythm of your own breath, the pulse of your heart, the gentle drift of your thoughts as they rise and fall like the tide. Let the ocean's lullaby remind you that rest is not about standing still, but about trusting the current that holds you. May you drift softly, rocked by the hush of an unseen sea, held safe in its cradle of quiet dreams. Chapter 17, Small Adaptations, Buoyancy Tricks. Imagine you are drifting weightless in the ocean, wrapped in the soft hush of waves above and the cool silence below. For a fish, staying suspended in this watery cradle is not just a matter of luck, but a testament to millions of tiny adaptations. Each species, from the glittering minnow to the ponderous grouper, has its own subtle tricks for staying afloat. It is not always about swim bladders alone. Sometimes it is about clever oils, secret body shapes, and slow, patient movements that keep them from sinking too far or floating away. Let us begin with the simplest trick, oil. In the deep ocean where light never reaches, some fish do not have a gas-filled swim bladder at all. Instead, they store oil inside their livers or tissues. Oil is less dense than water, so it acts like a built-in flotation device. Sharks, for example, are masters of this. They have enormous oily livers that help balance out their heavy muscles and cartilaginous skeletons. Even though they must keep moving to breathe, this oil gives them a gentle lift, making each slow beat of their tail more efficient. The oil in their liver is like a quiet promise that gravity will not drag them down too fast. Other fish use oils too, though not as dramatically as sharks. Some deep-sea species have tissues rich with waxy lipids that add just enough lift to counteract their weight. Think of a deep-sea lanternfish, hovering like a flickering star in the darkness. Its body is so delicately balanced by these tiny stores of oil that it can hang in place without wasting precious energy. Then there are fish that use shape to their advantage. A fish's body is like an underwater aircraft, carefully sculpted to slice through the water while resisting the pull of gravity. Many reef fish are flattened side to side, like paper-thin leaves drifting in a pond. This shape slows their downward drift, letting them glide into crevices to sleep without sinking too far. Other species, like the pufferfish, can even change their shape altogether. When threatened, they inflate themselves with water or air, not just to scare predators, but to become too buoyant to swallow or drag down easily. Body shape can also mean fins designed for fine-tuning. A fish's fins are not just paddles for swimming. They are delicate rudders that help it hover like a kite in a gentle breeze. Small adjustments to pectoral fins or the flick of a tail can lift a fish a few inches higher or lower, holding it in the perfect sweet spot where it feels weightless. Imagine a damselfish, its tiny fins fluttering as it sleeps in a coral crevice. Each subtle flick counters the push of a stray current or the pull of its own weight. Another adaptation is the art of slow movement. Many fish, especially those who spend their nights resting in the open water, master the balance of drifting just enough. Some species, like tuna, are built for speed during the day, but shift to slow, effortless gliding when they rest. They move only as much as needed to stay level, letting the ocean's natural currents carry most of their weight. In the dark layers of the midwater, bioluminescent fish drift like living lanterns, rising and sinking with tiny pulses of muscle that feel more like deep, contented sighs than swimming. Some fish even rely on the company of others for buoyancy support. Schooling species like sardines or anchovies gather in huge, shimmering clouds, each fish subtly adjusting its position in response to the movements of its neighbors. The swirl of thousands of tiny bodies helps create gentle microcurrents that hold the school in place, like a feather caught in an upward draft. Within this living cloud, each fish rests for brief moments, trusting that the dance of the group will keep it from drifting too far. Other fish anchor themselves when buoyancy alone will not do. Wrasses, for example, burrow into the sand at night, letting the grains hold them in place when their swim bladders relax. Parrotfish spin mucus cocoons to hide their scent, but also use rocky outcroppings as pillows that keep them from drifting in their sleep. These anchoring tricks are as much about staying put as they are about staying afloat. In the grand scheme of the ocean, these small tricks may seem like tiny miracles, but they are everyday acts of survival. Oils, shapes, slow movements, and hidden anchors. They all work together to let a fish drift within a world that never stands still. It is a reminder that staying balanced does not always mean fighting gravity head-on. Sometimes it means trusting 1,000 small adjustments to keep you right where you belong. So, when you close your eyes tonight, imagine yourself as a fish in the drifting sea. Think of the little buoyant secrets tucked within you, the gentle adjustments of your breath and thoughts that hold you softly in place. Like the shark with its oil, the wrasse in its sandy bed, or the lanternfish glowing mid-water, you are never truly falling. You are simply resting in the currents, held up by your own quiet tricks. Chapter 18. When the ocean sleeps, the earth breathes. Imagine standing on a quiet shore at dawn. The waves lap at your feet in a slow, rhythmic hush. The tide has drawn back overnight, carrying with it a whisper of secrets, of drifting dreams and drifting life. You stand there breathing the cool air, not thinking for a moment that every breath you take has been touched by the sleep of the ocean, but it has. Beneath that rolling surface lies a vast cradle that rocks not just fish, but our entire world. When we talk about the ocean sleeping, we do not mean it stops moving. Far from it. In fact, the ocean is always moving, always stirring with currents, tides, and upwellings. But inside that restless water, there are pockets of calm, places where creatures settle, coral polyps close, and plankton drift downward like flakes of soft snow. In these slow moments, something profound happens. The ocean does what it does best. It breathes life into the planet. Consider the smallest dreamers first. Microscopic phytoplankton, tiny plant-like drifters, float near the surface where sunlight reaches. By day, they turn that light into energy, releasing oxygen into the water and the air above. When night falls, they sink a little deeper, resting in the safety of the dark. In this constant cycle of drifting up and down, feeding and sleeping, they are responsible for producing more than half of the Earth's oxygen. Each quiet descent at night is like an inhale, each rising with the dawn like an exhale. When the ocean sleeps, you breathe easier. It is not just oxygen that the ocean gifts us. The deep sea is like an ancient storage chest, locking away carbon that would otherwise warm our atmosphere too quickly. As plants and animals drift through their life cycles, bits of their bodies fall as marine snow. This soft, endless flurry carries carbon from the sunlit surface down to the dark depths where it stays, sometimes for thousands of years. Fish sleeping among coral crevices, jellyfish drifting in the mid-water, even the hushed whale carcasses resting on the seafloor, all play their part in this silent transfer. When the ocean sleeps, the earth is able to find its balance. And what about the mighty currents that rock life to sleep? They are more than water flowing from place to place. They are the earth's veins, circulating warmth, nutrients, and life itself. These great rivers within the sea carry dissolved oxygen from the churning surface to the deepest trenches where strange creatures dream in the cold. In these cold, deep places, sleeping fish and invertebrates breathe in what the currents bring, then exhale it back into the cycle. Every quiet heartbeat of these hidden animals helps keep the ocean's chemistry steady. The coral reefs are another wonder. During the day, reefs are bustling cities of color and noise. At night, they hush. Fish retreat into coral nooks. Crabs hide under ledges, and polyps extend their tiny tentacles to feed in the darkness. In this gentle feeding, the corals build their skeletons, pulling carbon and minerals from the water drop by drop. These sleeping reefs lock away carbon in stone, becoming guardians of balance for centuries. Their slumber strengthens the shoreline, protects coasts from storms, and nurtures the countless creatures that rely on their shelter. Even the polar seas, so often thought of as cold deserts, have their own sleepy rhythm. Under the frozen ice, plankton blooms flourish during the short sunlit months and then drift into a deep seasonal rest. This quiet pause sets the pace for life, from krill to whales, from seals to seabirds. As the ice melts and freezes, it stirs the water, mixing oxygen and nutrients, refreshing the entire system like a deep restorative breath. The ocean's sleep, then, is not emptiness or waste. It is the Earth's way of rebalancing itself. Each resting fish, each drifting plankton, each slow swirl of cold water is part of a larger lullaby that keeps our air clean, our climate steady, and our world alive. It is a reminder that life's balance is not found only in action, but in calm, in stillness, in the hush that lets things mend. So when you lie down tonight and feel your own breathing slow, think of the ocean doing the same. Think of coral polyps gently closing, of deep-sea fish floating in the dark, of whales sinking into the blue like ancient dreams. Imagine the gentle push and pull of tides beneath the moon, the hush of the currents carrying life from shore to shore. As the ocean sleeps, the earth breathes, and so do you. May you find that same balance tonight, a quiet place within your thoughts, a calm rhythm in your heart, and the gentle trust that when you rest, you are helping the world hold steady in its own soft way. Chapter 19, Dial Migration, the world's biggest sleepwalk. In the hush of the world's oceans, while we sleep wrapped in blankets and roofed beneath our ceilings, a vast invisible journey is taking place far beneath the waves. It is the greatest daily migration on our entire planet, not across continents or through skies, but up and down in a slow vertical dance that connects the deep sea to the moonlit surface. It is called dial vertical migration, and it is nature's quiet version of a sleepwalk. Millions upon millions of tiny creatures, plankton and fish alike, drift upward at dusk and sink again before the dawn, following an ancient rhythm older than our earliest stories. Picture the ocean at sunset. Above, the last glow of sunlight melts into the horizon. Below, where the light has already faded, shadows begin to stir. Tiny zooplankton, small drifting animals invisible to the naked eye, awaken in the gloom. All day, they have hidden in the darkness of deeper water, safe from the watchful eyes of predators. But now, under the protective blanket of night, they begin their slow ascent. Like dust motes caught in a sunbeam, they float upward, carried by the tiniest motions of their bodies and the gentle lift of rising water. This journey is not a race. There are no quick flutters or frantic dashes. It is a slow, drifting rise that can take hours. Some will travel hundreds of meters, from the inky depths to the thin layer of ocean where moonlight dances on the waves. They do this to feed. Near the surface, microscopic plants called phytoplankton thrive, turning sunlight into life all day long. When darkness comes, the zooplankton drift up to graze on this living garden. They drift together in great invisible clouds, each one a tiny sleeper, rising in search of nourishment. Following them are the small fish that feed on the plankton. Lanternfish, named for the gentle bioluminescent glow they carry along their sides. Join this nightly pilgrimage. During the day, they hover far below, hidden from predators like tuna and swordfish. But under cover of darkness, they too ascend toward the food waiting near the surface. Their faint lights shimmer like underwater stars, an entire galaxy drifting slowly up from the abyss. Higher still, larger hunters glide through the dark, drawn by this upward tide of life. Squid dart through the drifting schools, their tentacles trailing behind like dream threads. Jellyfish pulse alongside, tentacles trailing softly as they feast on plankton unaware. Even some whales join this rise and fall, diving down to feed on the shoals of fish and plankton before they sink again at dawn. It is easy to forget here on land that this vertical migration happens every single night, all around the globe, from the warm tropical seas to the cold polar waters. This slow ascent and descent is repeated endlessly. It is the largest synchronized movement of life on Earth, billions of tiny animals drifting upward together and then drifting back down as the first touch of sunlight spills across the water's face. What makes this gentle journey so remarkable is how it connects ocean layers that might otherwise never touch. The plankton rising to feed bring the energy of the surface down with them when they sink. They carry nutrients from the sunlit realm to the deep, where other creatures wait to catch the scraps that drift down like marine snow. In this way, the ocean breathes in slow motion, rising at dusk, exhaling at dawn. For the fish and plankton themselves, this is not just about eating, it is also about resting safely. By hiding in the deep during daylight, they avoid the sharp eyes of predators who hunt in clear water. By drifting upward under cover of darkness, they feed while wrapped in shadows. Even this migration is not frantic. It is measured, patient, and unhurried. There is no leader, no trail, only the gentle pull of instinct, moonlight, and tides. And so, if you could float there among them, you would see a living river flowing up around you. The water would be filled with drifting bodies, transparent shrimp, ghostly fish, flickering lights of lanternfish, and delicate threads of jellyfish. You would feel the slow, patient lift of millions of wings without feathers, each pulse and wiggle carrying these small dreamers closer to the surface, then letting them sink back down with the coming sun. Perhaps when you close your eyes tonight, you can imagine your own breath moving like this great ocean sleepwalk. Inhale with the rise, exhale with the fall. Know that somewhere beneath the calm surface of the sea, the world's biggest migration is drifting on, night after night, age after age, a soft, silent ballet of life rising to feed and falling to dream again. Chapter 20, Marine Snow. A blanket for the sleepy deep. Far beneath the waves, in a place where sunlight is just a distant memory, a quiet snowfall drifts through the water. But this snow is not made of frozen crystals or cold flurries from a winter sky. This is marine snow, nature's gentle gift to the deep sea, a slow and constant shower of tiny particles that feeds the ocean's most secret places. Like a soft blanket falling over a sleeping child, it brings warmth and life to a world that would otherwise be so empty and still. If you could sink down through the layers of the ocean, past the dancing sunbeams and the swirling schools of fish, you would reach a realm of twilight. Keep drifting deeper, beyond where the last hints of blue light fade into ink, and you would find yourself surrounded by this delicate snowfall. Each flake of marine snow is a tiny piece of something once alive, a speck of plankton, a grain of algae, a scrap of fish scales, even the fragile remains of jellyfish that drifted for days before coming apart. Together, these drifting fragments become an endless rain that settles gently onto the waiting ocean floor. For the creatures who live in these dark places, marine snow is more than just debris. It is dinner, shelter, and sometimes even a message from the world above. Small shrimp-like animals hover in the gloom, their eyes and feelers sensitive to every drifting speck. They reach out with feathery limbs, gathering the falling flakes one by one, like a child catching snow on an outstretched tongue. Tiny worms burrow through the soft sediment, that collects on the seafloor, munching on the layers of snow that have settled like an underwater quilt. In this silent world, there is no rush. Everything moves slowly because food is precious and every meal must last. Sea cucumbers inch their way across the muddy bottom, sweeping up the dusting of marine snow with tentacle-like arms. They gather what they can, digest it carefully, and leave behind trails that will nourish other waiting creatures. Brittle stars stretch their arms into the water, feeling for the drifting flakes. They wave gently, patient as the snow finds its way to them. Even the larger animals depend on this soft fall. Some fish bury themselves in the seafloor, their eyes barely visible as they rest beneath the drifting snow. It hides them from predators, muffles the movements that might give them away, and keeps the temperature steady as they slip into sleep. The snow becomes a blanket of life and a shield all at once. Marine snow is not just about food for the deep sea. It is also one of the ocean's oldest ways of keeping balance. When tiny plankton bloom near the surface, they absorb sunlight and carbon dioxide from the air. When they die and sink as marine snow, they carry that carbon with them, burying it safely in the depths for hundreds or thousands of years. Each drifting flake is like a small promise that the ocean will help keep the Earth's breath steady, even while we sleep on dry land. There is beauty, too, in this gentle drift. If you could watch it with your own eyes, you would see the snow catching the faintest light from the surface, a soft, ghostly glow that makes the dark water seem almost magical. Sometimes small fish or jellyfish drift through, disturbing the snow in swirling eddies, sending tiny storms of particles spinning through the water before they settle once more. It is a never-ending snowfall that needs no winter, no storm clouds, no chill to exist. It simply is, always falling, always feeding, always cradling the sleepy deep. Scientists call this slow journey the biological pump, but that name feels too mechanical for something so delicate. To the creatures who wait for it below, it is a gift. To the ocean floor, it is a blanket. To us, it is a reminder that every breath, every meal, every quiet moment of sleep is connected to these drifting flakes we may never see. So tonight, as you lie wrapped in your own warm blankets, imagine the soft hush of marine snow falling miles below you. Imagine it drifting gently onto the backs of resting fish, into the waving arms of brittle stars, onto the wide waiting fields of the deep sea. Picture the darkness filling with tiny flakes of life, settling slowly, bringing rest and nourishment where the sun's light cannot reach. This is the ocean's way of saying that even in the deepest shadows, there is care. Even in the coldest darkness, there is a kind of warmth. And even when the world above forgets, the sea remembers, carrying each flake of life down to the ones who wait. Chapter 21: How Divers Learn to Float Like Fish. Imagine drifting beneath the surface of the sea, your body suspended in a clear blue world, where the usual rules of gravity fade into something softer and kinder. There is no pounding of feet on the ground, no weight dragging your shoulders down, just the feeling that you are part of the water, cradled by its calm, rocking in its gentle sway. This is the dream of every diver, to hover like a fish, to master the art of neutral buoyancy, that magical balance between sinking and floating that fish carry so naturally through their every waking and sleeping moment. For fish, this delicate balance is built into their bodies. Many species have a swim bladder, a gas-filled organ that works like a tiny natural balloon. By adding or releasing gas, they adjust their position in the water, rising when they need to feed near the surface, sinking when they want the safety of deeper shadows. When it is time to sleep, they find a quiet nook or a slow current and settle there, using their swim bladder or special oils in their bodies to keep them from drifting helplessly to the bottom or bobbing up to the light where danger waits. Divers do not have swim bladders. Instead, they must learn to become part of the water by training their minds and bodies to find that same sweet spot. The first lessons in diving are often clumsy. Divers sink too fast, crash gently into the sand, or float up like balloons when they try to rest. But over time, they discover that their lungs are their own living swim bladder. A deep breath fills them with just enough lift to rise a little. A slow, calm exhale lets them sink, as if gravity is a whisper instead of a weight. In those first few dives, there is often frustration. Divers learn quickly that fighting the water gets them nowhere. Kick too hard, and you stir up the sand. Hold your breath too long, and your body tenses, losing the soft trust the ocean demands. But then one day it clicks. They begin to breathe as the fish do, slow, measured, with full trust that the water will hold them. They add a little air to their buoyancy control device, an inflatable vest that works like an extra lung, then find the perfect balance with their breath alone. Many divers remember this moment for the rest of their lives. Hovering in the water for the first time feels like dreaming with your eyes wide open. There is coral below, a ceiling of light above, and nothing pulling you in either direction. In that pause, you share a secret with the fish drifting nearby, the turtles gliding past, the tiny shrimp tucked into coral cracks. You become, for a moment, just another creature of the water. Some divers say that this is when they truly feel part of the ocean. In that weightless silence, you begin to notice how the fish do it so well. A parrotfish tucks itself into the reef, its swim bladder holding it steady, while its fins flutter just enough to keep from drifting. A wrasse wiggles its body into a small crevice, slowing its breathing, its eyes closing part way as it settles into sleep. A shark circles slowly, its constant movement a gentle push against the pull of the deep, never resting completely, yet always calm. In these scenes, the ocean teaches us that balance is not about stillness alone, but about trust. Divers must trust the water to hold them. Fish trust their bodies to know when to rise and when to sink. Even when the currents shift, the fish do not panic. They tilt a fin, adjust a tiny muscle, and the ocean's cradle rocks them gently back into place. Ask any diver about their most peaceful underwater memory, and you will likely hear a story of neutral buoyancy. Maybe they drifted above a coral garden, schools of butterfly fish dancing beneath them like living confetti. Maybe they floated beside a sea turtle, watching it rise with a gentle push of its flippers, then settle again into the sand. Maybe they hovered in the open blue, nothing but water in every direction, a sense of endlessness that somehow made them feel more anchored than any solid ground ever could. There is a lesson here for us land dwellers too. Life above the water can feel heavy at times, full of gravity that pulls our minds down, our hearts down, our dreams down. But the fish remind us, and the ocean reminds us, that balance can be found in the breath, in the willingness to float, in the trust that we can find a place to hover, not always rising, not always sinking, just resting in the calm space in between. So as you drift toward sleep tonight, picture yourself as a diver who has finally learned the fish's secret. Feel the slow, steady rhythm of your breath, lifting you a little, settling you back down. Imagine the water holding you like a hammock, the world above you quiet, the darkness below you soft. You are part of the ocean now, floating in a memory that will stay with you long after you surface. Chapter 22. Lessons from the Sea. Rest in gentle motion. Somewhere between the whisper of waves against a quiet shore and the hush of tides that pull at the sand like a mother tucking in her child, there is a lesson the sea holds for all of us. It is a truth that fish, drifting corals, drifting plankton, and all the life hidden beneath the surface seem to know so well. Rest does not always mean stillness. Sometimes true rest is found in gentle motion, in a slow dance with the world around us, rather than in complete silence or absolute calm. Picture the ocean at night. The surface may look smooth from far away, but underneath it moves in endless patterns. Small fish find their hiding places in coral caves or curl themselves between waving seagrass blades, but even then, they are never truly motionless. Fins flutter now and then, gills draw water in and push it back out. A tail flicks once to shift a body that drifts a little too far. There is always a small correction, a graceful response to the push and pull that never ends. The fish sleeps in motion, rocked by the ocean's quiet currents like a baby in a cradle that never stops swaying. It is easy on land to think that rest means lying flat and still, willing the world to stop its noise. We imagine that only when we are perfectly unmoving can we truly sleep, truly dream, truly breathe in peace. But the sea reminds us that our deepest rest may come when we stop fighting every drift and learn to move with it instead. Consider how a whale sleeps, or a dolphin. These animals rise and fall with the swell, surfacing now and then for breath, even while half their mind remains wrapped in slumber. They are not frozen like statues. They are not trapped by fear of drifting. They trust the water to hold them, trust their bodies to know when to rise, when to sink, when to breathe. Even the tiny plankton, those specks of life that drift in the billions through the ocean's layers, find their rest in constant motion, lifted and lowered by currents that circle the globe like a planet's quiet heartbeat. Perhaps you too have felt this secret when you float on your back in a calm pool or lie on the sand listening to the rhythm of waves. There is a reason people call the ocean the world's greatest lullaby. It does not silence everything all at once. Instead, it hums around you, soothes you with a rocking that says, you do not have to hold still. You only have to let go. We see it when we watch divers learning to hover. They do not achieve neutral buoyancy by freezing in place. They breathe, slow and patient, each breath lifting them slightly, each exhale letting them settle again. They become part of the water's dance, surrendering to the small corrections, the tiny motions that keep them in balance. They rest in the motion, in the rise and fall that echoes the waves above them. The fish knows this. The seahorse, anchored by its tail to swaying seagrass, knows this. Even the coral polyps, which open their delicate arms to feed as currents pass by, rest within that gentle sway. None of these ocean dwellers curse the drift. None resist the subtle tug that the tides bring. They do not anchor themselves with unyielding force. Instead, they trust their small adaptations, fins that flick, tails that curl, swim bladders that rise and fall with the quiet breath of the sea. What would happen if we remembered this when we feel we must be perfectly still to find peace? What if we allowed our minds to drift just a little, our thoughts to float like plankton, our breath to rise and fall with the world's natural rhythm? We might discover that we do not have to fight for stillness like a stone in a storm. We can rest like a fish among the coral, moving just enough to stay safe, just enough to stay whole, yet never held down by the weight of our own need to control. The ocean teaches us that surrender does not mean weakness, it means trust. Trust that we can sleep with one eye open if we must. Trust that we can drift and still be held. Trust that the currents of life will carry us where we need to go, if only we remember to breathe. Perhaps in this soft lesson, we find a lullaby for our restless minds. You are allowed to move, to shift, to sway. Your rest is not broken by these gentle corrections, it is shaped by them. So tonight, as you settle deeper into your pillow, let your breath become the tide. Let your thoughts drift like marine snow, slow and unhurried. Let your body find its own gentle sway, a reminder that even when you move, you are resting, you are floating, you are safe. And in that secret dance between motion and sleep, you may dream the sweetest dreams the ocean has ever sung. Chapter 23. If Fish Could Dream, an Ocean's Imagined Dreams. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine drifting deep beneath the waves, past the sunlight that dances like gold threads just below the surface, past the twilight zone where shadows stretch long and blue, and into the inky dark of the ocean's hidden realms. Here, in the endless hush and sway, fish rest in their gentle way, eyes half closed, fins barely flicking, bodies suspended as if in a cradle of water and salt. Now imagine that they dream. If fish could dream, what would those dreams look like? Would they shimmer like schools of tiny silver anchovies, swirling and splitting in perfect synchrony? Would they flicker like bioluminescent lanterns, glowing softly in the abyss, a constellation of secret wishes drifting through the dark? Or would their dreams be like the ocean itself, vast, layered, always moving, yet somehow holding you in a soft, unbreakable embrace? Perhaps a reef fish dreams first of safety. Small and bright, it hides each night inside coral crevices or under waving anemone arms. If you were to slip inside its mind, you might find a vision of the reef bathed in moonlight. The gentle pulse of water through the coral branches feels like a lullaby. The fish drifts there, its gills fanning slowly, while its mind conjures up memories of sunlit mornings and glittering plankton drifting past. Maybe, in its tiny dream, it darts through tunnels of coral that have no end, always safe, always hidden from the open jaws of the night. In the deeper waters, where light is a rumor more than a reality, imagine the dreams of a lanternfish. All day, it hovers in the cold twilight, waiting for darkness to give it the courage to rise toward the surface in the greatest migration on Earth. When it sleeps, it might dream of drifting upward on an endless current, its belly lights blinking on and off like tiny stars. The world above beckons, filled with invisible threads of warmth. It dreams not of stillness, but of movement, always rising, always returning. And what of the deep-sea anglerfish, that strange creature with its toothy grin and luminous lure? Does she dream of the glow she carries like a tiny lantern on her head? Perhaps her dream is an endless dance of flickering lights, each one drawing curious prey close, each one a promise that she will never go hungry. In the dream world, there are no dark voids, no shadows that stretch forever. There is only the warm pulse of light and the slow beat of the heart that knows it belongs in the dark. In the shallows, imagine the seahorses curled around strands of seagrass as they drift into sleep. Their dreams might be gentle spirals, currents of green and gold wrapping them in a soft embrace. They dream of drifting without fear, tails anchored to something steady, while their minds float freely through beds of swaying grass. In their dreams, the tides do not pull too hard. They rise and fall just enough to rock them like babies in an underwater cradle. If you swim farther still, down past the sunlit surface and into the open blue, you might find the dreams of the great pelagic fish. Tuna, marlin, the ocean wanderers who never stop moving. What does a creature who is born to swim dream of? Maybe they dream in long ribbons of motion, water slipping over sleek scales, the horizon stretching endlessly ahead. They dream of freedom. They dream of speed that never tires them out. They dream of distant places, of currents that carry them from reef to reef, from shore to shore, on journeys that never really end. And perhaps deep in the blackness of the trenches where no sunlight ever reaches, there are dreams too. Here live the ghostly snailfish, the tiny amphipods, the strange jelly-like creatures that drift like living whispers. If they dream, maybe their visions are not filled with light at all, but with warmth. They dream of the slow pulse of hydrothermal vents, the warmth that seeps from the Earth's breath. They drift through mineral chimneys that glow with chemical life, a reminder that even in the deepest dark, there is energy, there is heat, there is a flicker of something more. Some scientists believe fish do not dream the way humans do. They do not conjure stories or impossible worlds behind closed eyelids. But when you watch an octopus flicker through colors as it sleeps, skin shifting from pale white to dark red to speckled brown, you cannot help but wonder, what does it see in that hidden place? Is it hunting in a dream reef? Is it slipping through cracks and caves, curling its arms around treasures we cannot name? In the end, maybe the ocean's imagined dreams are not meant to be understood fully. Maybe they are just for us to picture as we drift off ourselves, a reminder that life beneath the waves is always in motion, always resting, always dreaming in its own secret way. So tonight, as you close your eyes, let yourself drift through the sea's imagined dreams, shimmering shoals, glowing lanterns, warm vents, and endless currents that carry you, soft as a sigh, to the edge of sleep. If fish could dream, they might dream of us too, land dwellers who stand on the shore and watch the waves, wondering what mysteries sleep within. And perhaps, just perhaps, they would wish us gentle currents, safe places to anchor, and dreams as deep and endless as the ocean itself. Chapter 24, a guided underwater visualizing, and cold when you lie down. Settle yourself now, wherever you are. Feel the soft weight of your body supported by the bed, the chair, the floor beneath you. Let your eyes drift closed if they wish, or gaze softly at nothing in particular. Let your breath come and go like a tide, gentle and unhurried. In your mind, we are going to take a small journey together, a peaceful drift into a world where gravity loosens its hold, and the ocean cradles you like a mother, rocking her child to sleep. Picture this. You are no longer here on land. You are somewhere beneath the waves. At first, there is a hush, a sense of the world muffled by water. The sounds you know, the hum of electricity, the rustle of fabric, the tick of a clock, all slip away as you feel the cool embrace of the sea wrap around you. You are a fish now, small and free, moving with the water rather than against it. Notice how you feel. Your body no longer heavy, no longer pressed down by the solid world. Here you are weightless. You hover as easily as a leaf caught in a slow current. Around you, shafts of sunlight pierce through the surface above, sending ripples of golden light that dance on your scales. It is warm near the top, but just below your fins, you can sense the cooler water waiting, layers upon layers of softness that cradle you in their depths. You take in a breath, not through your mouth, but through the gentle flutter of your gills. The water flows in, bringing oxygen, bringing life. There is no need to rush. You do not even have to think about it. The ocean provides what you need, and you drift there, content and calm. Ahead, you see a field of waving seagrass. You swim toward it with a flick of your tail, your fins tilting just enough to guide you. Every movement is easy. There is no force here, no sharp corners, only the slow language of water and body and water. You find a soft spot, a clearing among the grass, and you hover there, suspended like a tiny lantern. Above you, the sun glitters through the surface, a shifting quilt of gold and blue. Around you, tiny bubbles rise in slow columns, each one catching the light before drifting away to join the sky above. You feel safe here, hidden by the tall green blades that sway like dancers in the current. Now and then, the grass brushes your scales, cool and comforting, a reminder that you are held in this gentle cradle. As you rest, you feel the current begin to rock you, a lullaby without words. It pushes you one way, then another. You do not resist. You let your body drift, just as the fish do when they sleep, tails drifting down, fins folding like soft petals. You do not sink too far, because your swim bladder holds you steady, a tiny balloon within you that finds the perfect balance between gravity and lift. Imagine now that your eyes begin to close. The reef around you grows quieter, the chatter of shrimp, the hum of distant fish, all fade into a hush. You drift deeper into a dreamlike state, not quite asleep, not quite awake, half here and half somewhere else. A small school of silver fish passes by, their scales flashing like coins in the moonlight. You do not chase them, you do not flee, you only watch, your body swaying in the same timeless rhythm. Somewhere beyond the seagrass, a coral head glows faintly, with tiny creatures tucked inside. A crab nestles into a crevice. A seahorse curls its tail around a strand of kelp and lets the tide rock it. You are part of this underwater neighborhood now, a silent resident of this watery world. Nothing is expected of you here. You do not need to plan. You do not need to hold on. The ocean does the holding for you. Take a breath. Feel how your body expands and settles again. In your mind's eye, you flick your fins just once, feeling the swirl of water slip past your scales. You are neither rising nor falling. You are simply here, suspended in the hush of the ocean's cradle. Above you, the world goes on. The waves move, the moonlight drifts, but down here, everything is slow, everything is soft. Stay in this place for as long as you wish. Feel how your heart slows, your breath eases, your mind unwinds its tight knots. You are safe in this gentle dream. You are light. You are drifting, a small and beautiful part of the sea's quiet night. And when you return to yourself, when you open your eyes again, you will carry a little of this weightlessness with you, a reminder that somewhere inside you, there is always an ocean that holds you, drifts you, and lets you rest. So float now, dear dreamer, like a fish beneath the waves, weightless and whole, rocked by the tides that know no end. Chapter 25, Gratitude for the Ocean's Secret Rhythms. Before we drift away completely into the soft embrace of sleep, let us pause for a gentle moment of gratitude, not loud or rushed, but quiet and sincere, like a ripple across still water. Tonight, you have floated through the secret rhythms of the ocean, slipping through coral forests, seagrass beds, open currents, and the abyssal plains where ancient life drifts in the dark. You have become a sleepy witness to the underwater places where the world's greatest mysteries breathe beneath the surface, out of sight, but never out of reach. Take a slow, deep breath now and imagine the ocean's pulse. It is not a heartbeat we can hear with our ears pressed against the ground, but it is there, alive in every wave, every current, every gentle push and pull of the tide. Fish sleep and drift without sinking because the ocean knows how to hold them in that careful balance. They move without effort, they rest without fear. In their small, watery slumbers, they remind us that life's hidden rhythms do not need our constant attention to keep going. The sea does not wait for our permission to rise and fall. It simply does what it has always done. This vast body of water covers more than 70% of our planet. It breathes with the wind and the pull of the moon. It rocks small fish to sleep in coral crevices and drifts giant squid across trenches, deeper than mountains are tall. It keeps the Earth's temperature steady, its currents carrying warmth and cold around the globe in an endless unseen dance. Even now, as you lie here somewhere in the deep, water is moving, nutrients are drifting, marine snow is falling like a gentle underwater snowfall, feeding life in places sunlight will never touch. When you breathe in, imagine you are breathing in a piece of that rhythm, the same ocean that lets fish sleep without sinking, holds carbon from the air, releases oxygen into the winds that circle the globe, and keeps our climates from swinging wildly out of control. It is the quiet, constant caretaker of balance, a sleeping giant that drifts and turns, yet never forgets its role in the story of life. Think of the small creatures you met in this dreamlike dive, the seahorse that curls its tail around a single strand of grass to keep from drifting away, the lanternfish that rises and falls with the daily tide of plankton, the reef fish that tucks itself into a soft coral bed to avoid predators lurking in the dark. Each of them is guided by a gentle trust that the ocean will hold them, rock them, and feed them while they rest. And in a way, so are we. Every drop of water that moves through our rivers, every cloud that carries rain across the land, every breath of salty breeze that reminds us how close or far we live from the shore, they all begin and end with the ocean's secret rhythms. Maybe tonight, you will drift off and carry some of that trust with you. Maybe you will feel the memory of floating weightless, a tiny creature in a vast cradle. Maybe when your mind wants to hold too tight to worry or fear, you will remember the fish who let go and drift instead, who sleep with one eye open, a fin flicking just enough to stay steady, trusting the water to do what it has always done. Let yourself rest now in gratitude for the ocean's gift, the quiet promise that beneath the crashing waves and roaring storms, there is also stillness. There are hidden places where the world slows down, where fish hover and corals breathe and plankton glow in the blackness. There are secret spaces where life pauses, gathers its strength, and then rises again with the next tide. As you lie here, perhaps you can feel your own secret rhythms softening too, your heart slowing to match the gentle pulse of the water, your breath rocking you like a tide coming in, going out. You are part of this cycle, whether you are near the sea or far inland. The ocean's balance is your balance too. It holds the air you breathe, the rain that nourishes your food, the winds that shape your seasons, and tonight it holds your dreams, wrapping them in its dark, glimmering arms. So let your final thought before sleep be one of thanks. Thank you to the drifting fish, to the currents that carry them, to the hidden reefs and deep trenches that cradle life in silence. Thank you to the ocean for keeping the world steady, even when we do not notice. And thank you to yourself, dear dreamer, for taking a moment to drift here, for resting in this blue, timeless cradle. May your sleep be as weightless as a fish hovering in the sea. May your dreams be filled with shimmering schools and soft tides that pull you gently toward morning. And when you wake, may you remember that even when you cannot see it, the ocean is always there, keeping the world in balance, whispering in its secret rhythms that you too are held. Sleep well, drift deep, and dream in the language of waves.